Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Comic Corner Classic/Non-Classics. This is episode number 2275 and Doubleshot number 2169. I have two DC trades here from two characters who are close friends with each other, but these are two time periods. One is fairly recent trade, the other one's an older trade. Alright, first that we have is Nightwing by Tom Taylor, Volume 3, The Battle for Bludhaven's Heart, collecting Nightwing Volume 4, issues 92 to 96. Mostly put in these issues, we see Dick Grayson, who establishes this community center known as the Haven for kids. Like, he established it, but he's facing trouble from the police department. Oh yeah, we see the community center. Send police protection for that. Like, send police presence there for no reason aside from the fact basically all these cops are on the take. Mainly they're in the back pocket of Roland Desmond, aka Blockbuster. Yep, and because of the fact that he dare threatened him, well, Dick Grayson, mind you. Yep, so yeah, and these cops, yeah, so thanks to some, basically, how to get out of this quite interesting. But before that, yes, so the Haven comes a little bit later. So we have Bruno Renato on the artwork and Geraldo Borges, and of course Tom Taylor. And Bruno does this wonderful cover art. Yep, so the book starts out with basically a flashback to when Dick Grayson was still Robin, where he basically kind of failed the mission he's here with Batgirl. And this is Winfield again. So then we cut to present day. We have a place called the Haven. Oh, and here is something I just noticed just now. We have a cameo here by, sadly, the late George Perez, and I believe that's supposed to be Marv Wolfman. Yes, the guys who gave, Dick Grayson's identity as Nightwing. I'm like, that's interesting. Who would have thunk we have George Perez do a cameo? Yeah, who would have thunk that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, this thing doesn't know here, but yeah. Yeah, cameos by two legendary creators. My guess is the reason why that the artists threw these two in there, probably because George Perez passed away last year, so why not include him? And Marv Wolfman. It looks like Bruce Wayne, where he just here just paying a visit. And of course they see like a statue made for Alfred, which is quite nice. And then we have, three people basically come to confront Dick Grayson. We have Blockbuster, the Commissioner, and Mayor Zuko, who is Dick Grayson's half sister. Now Roland doesn't know that just yet, but he does know a little bit later. So he found from your Haven. And it's like, how about the blocks? And then it's like, you're gonna cause a problem? Don't be stupid, Mr. Wayne. And then we see Superman. Well, it's not actually Superman. It's not Clark. It's his son, John. The one who's gay. Yeah, my guess is the reason why Tom Taylor did this because he was writing the book at the time, so why not? Yeah, so then we have these masked individuals who take out the security cameras. So then Dick Grayson gets a fight with these people. Yep. And gets them all EMS, every one of them. And he's like, did we get them? The city cameras were down, but all of my cameras in Haven were working just fine. Ooh, yes. It was behind it. And then we see Heartless show up. Heartless is an original villain that Tom Taylor created, so why not? So then, of course, basically have to deal with him. He ends up fighting him. And, of course, you have Dick Grayson, Nightwing. Or you have Spray Painted No Haven. Now, here's the thing. What he's doing is perfectly fine. Yes, this is perfectly legal. He is taking a bucket and he is wiping off graffiti off a statue. And these cops want to open fire at him just because he's a mass vigilante. Yeah, it's like, police. Look, get the Bludhaven. Look, I get the Bludhaven police are openly corrupt. What should it be for? Cleaning? That's loose and crooked. I mean, what's the bigger public threat? The cloth or the bucket? That I think is quite funny. Gotta leave because patrol cars. He gets away. Oh yeah, made breakfast. Batgirl's headquarters, the Hill. Of course, mentioning, oh yeah, he loves her, and of course, well. Then the police start showing up at the Haven. Causing a lot of trouble. What do you think you're doing? And the commissioner's like, is it a problem, Mr. Grayson? The problem, Commissioner McLean, is the Haven's supposed to be a welcoming space. That's not triple police presence. You think these kids are going to be welcome if they're treated like criminals? A lot of kids are criminals. We're just trying to see, Mr. Grayson. After last night, you want anything else, particulars? I want you to be at Haven. You may want to accept you're not in control of the situation, Mr. Grayson. What's this? Oh, I invited Amita. I'll tell you about criminal activities. Like a police department intends about. Oracle. Now. Boop. Thank you all for coming. Yeah, he makes a speech like, last night of Shock Attack Community Hub was like, people by the hands. Is not true. Excuse me? There's a video of last night's attack. I'm afraid there is, and the cameras were forced to take offline. Then the individuals are responsible, are capable of that. Regardless, any potential footage would be unhelpful if you are amassed. Oh, how would you know that? Everyone here can judge for themselves, footage is. It's gone live. Links from every major news network. Several visuals were purchased masks, and all been identified as members of the Bludhaven Police Department. Commissioner, move back! Where did you come from? Answer me. You might accept you're not controlling this way every situation, Commissioner. Yeah, so the police just have to leave. Because basically they tried to ruin his reputation. They tried to turf in the turf. It's all about dick manager contest. So they have Heartless being controlled by this other guy, all by their hearts. And then of course you have this person who's like, interrogating him because he gives him nothing. Yeah, and apparently it turns out though that the attack was instigated by the commissioner, and the feds arrest him. So basically Nightwing takes him down, and he's arrested. And of course I think it's basically like, then the FBI decides to appoint Maggie Sawyer from Superman as the new commissioner, with Dan Turner probably as their lieutenant. Yep, and then we have basically people from, Blockbuster. Now, him having regular criminals working for him, now, this is nothing new. Like, having these masked villains work for him, these are basically B or C list villains. This is nothing new. Chuck Dixon did this during his run too, so I appreciate, now, this is probably unintentional on Tom Taylor's part. He probably just had these people here. This is like it's not Lady Vic or any of the classic villains that appeared in Chuck Dixon's run, because, of course, basically we can't feature anything associated with Chuck Dixon, because higher-up DC just hate Chuck Dixon because he's conservative. Which, that's stupid. That's not a good reason to blacklist somebody. At all. But I'm sure Blockbuster's here because, here's the thing. The Nightwing trades, the one done by Chuck Dixon, I'm sure they probably saw DC pretty well, despite the fact they're probably embarrassed by it. That could explain why there has many trades that collect Devin Grayson's run for these new trades. But yeah, Chuck Dixon's run collect no problem. Yep, so... And of course, like, those smooch from Barbara Dick. Like, they call from Roland, like, Melinda. And of course, basically see her mom there. Actually, her grandmother. Haven, now the commissioner, being threatened. Yeah, and then of course, basically, like, the guy who's a rat in the ranks. And of course, she's taken out by Roland. And of course, oh yeah, now becomes a full-scale war over the course next couple issues. Like, yeah, then we have Nightwing beating up Roland's goons. I'm very disappointed to see Melinda. Okay, so they fight. And then the commissioner basically is, and of course, I think it's supposed to be the commissioner. Regulatory detectives. Yeah, that'd be a biggest fan, ex-commissioner. And then as soon as he leaves, then basically it's something quite interesting. And while they're chatting, apparently this guy was actually on Blockbuster's payroll, shoots the ex-commissioner, and Maggie Sawyer asks, who was responsible for this? Who did this? And comes the blue wall. Yes, something, a lot of Wayne Smith and Law and Order, they think the blue wall thing is a piece of bullcrap. Yes, they keep their mouth shut because they don't want basically because they don't like Maggie because basically she's a woman. He's like, this city, Maggie, it's the mayor. She wants to talk in private. Yep, and of course basically then, oh yeah, so Nightwing basically forms his own group to take down the corruption in Bludhaven. So he contacts Batwoman. Oh, and here's something interesting though. Tom Taylor, despite the fact the editor does not reference it here, probably because basically comes from a really bad run, yes, they bring up basically Maggie and Batwoman's shared history. Yes, from a book that it's been very mixed over the years. The Batwoman ongoing series, one that lasted 40 issues, not the Margaret Mary one. That was awesome. I love that book. But the one that came before that. Yeah, what they're referencing is something that Mark Andrego did. Yes, I'm sure that basically he probably had to do it because he felt like it. But I'm sure the editors probably didn't want to basically bring up what the heck they're talking about because here's the thing. They begin the fact, oh yeah, these two are not very trusting of each other. Well, let me explain because apparently that the editor of this book did not bother to explain this. Okay, what had happened was that Kate Kane interfered in Maggie Sawyer's custody case over her daughter and the fact that because of this, their engagement was called off and not long after that, she basically just left her. Now here's the thing. During like around issue 18, basic conclusion of the World's Finest story arc, which is really good by the way, at the end of the story arc, Batwoman proposes to Maggie. Now, Greg Rucka had set up this relationship in the previous continuity, and basically the current continuity continued it. As a matter of fact, a couple times throughout the J.H. Williams and Heidi Blackman run, these two had sex. A few times. And she proposed, and there was a plan. Now, I had heard about this. The plan was to have these two have a lesbian wedding. But these higher-ups got cold because of the... because they... And here's the strange thing, though. Not long after this, basically, Jeff Johns left Aquaman. Because of Dan DiDio's stupid comments that superheroes cannot be happy. Yes. Now, as for why in the world they probably didn't include this, because my guess is they probably didn't include an editorial note of this because of pure embarrassment. Yes, that is my personal theory. Anybody who has read the Batwoman run, not the Margaret run, the one lasted from 2011 to 2015, that was written by Heidi Blackman and J.H. Williams, and also done by Mark Andrego. The whole thing, basically, I just mentioned, that was Mark Andrego's doing. But from what I've heard, and what one person described him as, he was DC's yes man. Basically, he was doing what he was told to do. And he put out a book that is considered has some of those worst issues that DC's ever published. The artwork was really good in those issues, but the writing was atrocious. Now, I'm not blaming Mark Andrego for the writing for that book. I blame his stupid editor, who probably should be punched in the face on how to basically properly write a Batwoman book, and Margaret Bennett should get her book back, because that book was really good. So, moving on beyond that. So, then they apparently contact Titans, along with Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, well, basically contact the Batgirls, Tim Drake, which for some reason they include Damian this issue for some reason, Huntress, Batman, and this wonderful thing. I love this. So basically their job to do is to take the corruption, so they all just beat, and of course they take down all thing is take down Blockbuster. They take it from here. What's with you two? I thought you two were close. We were. I was supposed to marry her. And you didn't. A mixture of stubbornness, stupidity, and fear. Mark Andrego's Batwoman. I thought myself I was doing it for her. Biggest thing ever made. Nightwing. And of course, basically, the Haven Library. And of course, like, yeah, then we have Blockbuster, only two children by their head. And of course, now he fights him. Of course, then he gets unmasked like Dick Grayson. Yeah, he finds Dick Grayson's, well, when 96 happens. Oh boy. puts his mask back on, fights Blockbuster. And then, of course, basically, Nightwing, his goons show up, and they're like, wait, before you fight us, here, we found something really interesting. And, of course, he crushes his dongo stick, his baton, of course, shove out the window, and, of course, he'll get out of our haven. Electrocution of the car. Nope. We know what you did. The hero showed us. What are you? You own Bludhaven private prison. I did 2 years in that place. The worst prison I've ever done time in. Barely any food or sunlight. 2 years of my life stuck in hell. And it turned out it was all you. Brutal. Nah. I had friends in Bludhaven prison. But I didn't survive that place. I don't work for you anymore. And wants to go around? No anyone else working there. Good luck with Angry Mob. And of course, Alexius tells him, F you, and they drive off. Yeah, so basically, Roland's lost all of his support. You think everything's over, and of course, you have a little smooch between Batgirl and Nightwing. And you're running and of course, Witchgate, and of course, Heartless is here. Then he proceeds to rip out Blockbuster's heart. And he dies. Yes. He dies. Says, and of course, the book ends with City is Mine. This book is awesome. I love this book. It felt a little bit like not only a little bit we see from Chuck Dixon stuff, but also Devin Gray stuff as well. But I don't mind the reference. Some of the issues are actually pretty good. I'll give this book roughly a 9.5 out of 10. Excuse me. Also, second time Blockbuster's died in a comic book. Second time died in Nightwing. Because he also died in Volume 2. He got killed by Tarantula by her shooting him. And then having, basically, right after she kills him, right in front of Nightwing, that she proceeds to rape Nightwing. Which Devin Grayson calls non-consensual sex, aka rape. Yeah, at least this time, that didn't happen. Nope. It's like, basically, Tom Taylor probably knew about that. He probably really wanted to kill him at this point in time, but don't have him die in front of Dick Grayson this time. Have him die when nobody's around, and have him get killed by a new guy. Kind of similar what happened. Have him killed by an original character that the writer created. Basically the same thing that Devin Grayson did. But at least that this guy then tried to rape Nightwing. Yeah, thank God for that. That would be stupid. But yeah, at least it was the guy killed him this time, not a woman. Though the woman just pointed out was hot. Yes. Despite the fact, here's the thing. Gillis probably didn't like that very much, so had her die in the pages of Secret 6. Alright, next up we have is Superman, the Last Stand of New Kyrpton, Volume 1. This book collects these following issues. We have Adventure Comics, Volume 2, Issues 8 and 9. Superman, the Last Stand of New Kyrpton, 1 and 2. Supergirl 51. And Superman 698. Now, throughout this book, basically, this is quite cool. I personally love this book. Now, if you're curious, though, about Adventure Comics, Volume number 8, this is basically... Now, what they do is they collect the first two stories in here. Now, there's also a backup story in here, the third story, called Zod Awake, which that is actually collected in Nightwing and Flamebird. So, yeah, I've already since I reviewed that one. So, this takes up roughly just two. It takes up just this issue and the following issue. Yeah, so kind of in the way I got these two issues done. If you're curious about the remaining couple issues, well, issue 10 probably is collected in Volume 2 for Last Stand of Kyrpton. And as for issue number 11, well, that's probably the same thing there too. Actually, that's collecting two different trades. Basically like the opening story in Volume 2 and the air story in Mon-El, Man of Valor. Which is a finale to the previous trade. Yep. Yeah, basically in a way, this kind of sets up what's going on in the pages of this book. Yeah, for the Last Stand of New Kyrpton. Which starts with Adventure Comics number 8. Basically, in the way this book covers The prologue, which is Adventure Comics volume number 8. Last of Kyrpton number 1. It doesn't collect the Action Comic issue. I don't think it does it? No, it doesn't. It doesn't collect the Action Comic issue, but it does collect Superman, Supergirl, and Adventure Comics. Mm-hmm. Now, if you're curious, who does the writing for the issues? Starling Gates and James Robertson. I think James Robertson, from what I can tell, does a majority of this event, and Starling Gates just does the Supergirl issues. Now, who does Adventure Comics, you might ask? Okay, that is done by Starling Gates. He does basically part 1. Part 2 is done by James Robertson. Issue 2, Adventure Comics number 9, opening story. Last of Kyrpton part 4, which is basically Namesake. That's done by James Robertson. Unify is Starling Gates. Mm-hmm. But I know Supergirl is done by Starling Gates. That's obvious. Last of Kyrpton number 1. This one is co-done by both, with Pete Woods mostly on the artwork for this one. And the second issue is pretty much the same thing. Mm-hmm. The Superman issue, this one I don't think is Starling Gates. No, it's just James Robertson. Yeah. So a lot of this book, basically, the whole prelude stuff is basically what the lead superhero was up to prior to this, where you get basically like a little backstory on the Brainiacs. So, yep. As all prepare to go to the past because, of course, they have to go deal with New Kyrpton and, of course, Brainiac ship showing up. And then part 2, part 1 is basically New Kyrpton invaded. That's basically the first part here. Mm-hmm. Yeah, mostly put basically, Brainiac arriving above, and of course him attacking the Kryptonians and then fighting back. Zod and Allura basically are fighting against this. Red Shark basically is told to pull back because he tends to fire a cannon. Of course, Superman basically is not happy with the fact that Zod, so he just resigns, tells his subordinate he's in charge. So then he takes out the outfit and says, basically, as Kal-El, that's what you, Kal-El. As Kal-El, nothing. No, this is a job for Superman! Yep, so Superman himself, in costume, so apparently he kept this costume in his uniform, so he proceeds to go to Brainiac himself, while Supergirl was with her mom, basically fighting against the Brainiac robots. And then the Legion superhero show up with Connor Kent, aka Superboy. And of course, like, Connor, what are you doing here? And of course, then something really stupid happens. General Zod arrests the lead superheroes just because they're aliens. And then basically you have, Superman fighting Brainiac again. But then he's attacked by Lex Luthor. Yes, frickin' Lex Luthor. And of course, basically, so they fight. You have Mon-El basically getting kissed by Supergirl because, of course, he does. Yep. And then, of course, you have, Kara's mom basically, have her throat, of course. Kyle was like, wait, this is what it looks like. Yep. And, of course, basically, Connor. Of course, he does apologize for attacking her because, she's brought a family. Zod. Mom, you gotta go. Let the Legion go. The future of the universe depends on its success. If the general's saying during time of war, I don't know if they would do anything. And, of course, Kara points out, though, that she's the head of the council right now. Who runs this planet? You or General Zod? And then, of course, Zod's told to release them. No problem. And, of course, they go fight. And, of course, they go save the bottle cities of Krypton's ship. And, of course, basically, the Legion of superheroes, along with the Kryptonians, are fighting off against Brainiac's Romex. Superman himself is captured by Brainiac and Lex Luthor. If you're curious about the jumpsuit, he's been in prison for a while, and this is kind of leading to what happened afterwards. I'll get to that. So, and of course, Mon-El joins him on board the ship. Of course, Mon-El has to deal with space baboons. Yes, space baboons. Yep. It's like, and of course he tries to, and of course you have Lex going to shoot the bottle cities, though they're saved by Mon-El. And they fight. Gotta love this arc by Joe Kios, just so awesome. Of course, the Legion just reluctantly work with them, and of course, well, on of course is Brainiac 5, and of course, Brainiac 5 launches more robots, more of these guys. Fight, fight, fight. Yep. Oh, here's one for you. A cover by the late, awesome George Perez. Awesome to see that. Yeah, this is Last Day of Kyrpton Part 5. Battles and Bottles. This actually is from Last Day of Kyrpton number 2. That's basically where this part's from. Yep. Yeah. So, then we have a 2-page spread, which is well, good basically. It's Supergirl, Superboy, and the Legion trying to go on Brainiac's ship. Brainiac 5 arrives. And, of course, you have Brainiac fighting against Superman. And of course, then, of course, all the bottles, basically, like, of course, Cake's one of them. Keep your hands to the city, monster. Take one city. Then, of course, they disappear. Where they go to, don't know. Then, apparently, like, Projectra is underneath that mass all along. Fighting more robots. Of course, the robots are killing some Kryptonians. Then, of course, Kandor is shrunk into a bottle again. Because, of course, it is. And, of course, Superman, of course, is not on Kandor at that point. He's off planet. And, of course, like... And, of course, it ends with this cliffhanger. Where it's like, I won! And then we see from Zod's making the side, he's lost. Ooh. So we continue Volume 2. This book is awesome. I love it. This book is amazing. James Ubbas and Sterling Gage shows the fact these two are really good writers. I give this book a 10 out of 10. It's pure awesomeness and finest. I'm trying to tell you, I'm not sure if he has reviewed this or not. If he has, Tivia, review this storyline because it is awesome. Yeah. So that's it for particular review. Next up, basically, with some Doctor Who. I need to get finance to get some dinner. And, well, then I'll be back, probably review some Doctor Who, maybe another couple comic corners, okay? Next video. Bye.